You wake up already tired, your alarm goes off, you check your phone before your feet hit the floor. By 9 a.m., you've answered 12 messages, refilled your coffee twice, and started a mental list of everything you still haven't done. This is just Tuesday. You tell yourself this is just what being alive means now, but the real answer is way weirder than that. For most of human history, a normal day looked nothing like this, not even close. Somewhere in your head is a picture of a caveman. He's hunched over a fire. He's exhausted. He's spearing something dangerous just to survive until sunset. That picture is wrong, almost all of it. Here's the strange part. The people who lived this way for the vast majority of human history weren't grinding nonstop just to stay alive. They were, in a lot of ways, working less than you do right now, less than your parents did, less than almost anyone in the modern world. Sit with that for a second. How is that possible? In the 1960s, an anthropologist named Richard Lee traveled to the Kalahari Desert to study a group called the Juhuansi, sometimes known as the Kungsan. He wanted to measure something nobody had really measured before. Not their beliefs, not their tools, their time. He tracked how many hours adults actually spent finding and gathering food. The number he found stunned people. About 15 hours a week, sometimes 20. That's it. Compare that to a standard American work week of 40 hours, not counting commuting, errands, or the mental labor of a full inbox. The people Lee studied spent the rest of their time resting, socializing, playing, and doing what researchers now just call nothing in particular. Nothing in particular. Let that phrase sit there for a moment because it might be the most foreign concept in your entire day. A few years after Lee published his findings, an anthropologist named Marshall Solins took the idea further. He coined a phrase that broke a lot of assumptions people had been taught in school. He called hunter-gatherer societies the original affluent society. Not affluent because they had more stuff. They had almost nothing you'd recognize as stuff at all. Affluent because they had enough and knew it and stopped there. That's the part that trips people up. Affluence, in Solins's argument, isn't about accumulation. It's about the gap between what you want and what you have. Close that gap and you're rich, even with empty hands. Modern life keeps widening the gap on purpose. Every ad, every scroll, every algorithm exists to make sure you never feel like you have enough. So if they weren't hunting from dawn to dusk, what were they actually doing all day? A lot of it was maintenance, not chasing mammoths, making tools, repairing shelters, preparing food that had already been gathered, talking. A huge amount of the day was talking. Anthropologists who lived among modern hunter-gatherer groups found that conversation wasn't small talk the way you might picture it. It was how information got passed down, who to trust, where water might be found in a dry season, which plant looks like food but will make you sick. Stories carried the data your brain now gets from a search engine, and then there was rest. Actual rest, not the kind you feel guilty about. In 2015, a researcher named Jerome Siegel led a study that tracked sleep in 3 modern groups still living without electricity, similar in lifestyle to ancient humans, including the Hadza in Tanzania and the San in Namibia. Researchers expected to find that people without electric light slept enormous amounts, maybe 10 or 11 hours a night, since they had nothing keeping them up. The actual number was around 6.5 hours, slightly less than the average American gets. But here's the twist. Almost none of them reported struggling with insomnia. Almost none of them dreaded waking up. Their sleep, short as it was, worked with their bodies instead of against them. Why does that matter to you right now? Because it means the exhaustion you feel probably isn't about how much you're doing. It's about the shape of your day. Ancient humans didn't have 8 consecutive hours of pressure followed by a scramble to relax before doing it again. Their day breathed. Work, then rest. Gather, then talk. Move, then sit completely still and watch nothing happen for a while. Their nervous systems were built for that rhythm, and yours still is, even though almost nothing about your schedule respects it anymore. There's a term for the kind of economy these groups lived in: immediate return. You do something today, you eat today. No long-term debt. No planning 18 months ahead. No stress about a future that hasn't happened yet. Anthropologist James Woodburn studied these societies for decades and noticed something almost radical by modern standards. Without the need to store, save, or accumulate, there was very little reason to hoard power either. Sharing wasn't a virtue people were taught. It was just how the math worked. If you don't need to stockpile, you don't need to control who gets what. Compare that to your own mental math. How many hours this week did you spend thinking about money you don't have yet, or a deadline 3 weeks out, or a plan for a future that might not even happen the way you're picturing it? That's the trade humanity made: somewhere around the invention of agriculture, roughly 12,000 years ago. Farming meant you could store food. Storing food meant you could survive a bad season. It also meant for the first time that some people could hoard more than others. Work stopped being about getting through today. It became about accumulating for tomorrow and every tomorrow after that. The 15-hour work week didn't slowly creep upward by accident. It was replaced by an entirely different relationship with time itself. Your ancestors didn't evolve to grind, they evolved to do enough, then stop. None of this means ancient life was easy. It wasn't. Disease could kill quickly. Childbirth was dangerous. A bad drought could threaten an entire group. Nobody is arguing you should trade your bed and your antibiotics for a life expectancy that peaked, for many, in the 30s or 40s. That part of the old picture is true. The exhausted, overworked part is the part that isn't. So the next time you sit down at the end of a long day, completely drained, and you have no idea where the hours went, consider this. Your body isn't broken, your brain isn't lazy, you're not falling behind some ancient standard of grit and endurance. You're running a nervous system built for 15-hour work weeks and long afternoons doing nothing in particular, inside a world that scheduled you for something else entirely. Tonight, when you finally close your laptop and feel that familiar wave of tiredness, remember that somewhere back along your family line, someone sat by a fire at the exact same hour, having worked less than you did today, and felt completely at peace with how little they had done. You check your phone before your feet even hit the floor. Somewhere in your bones, a part of you is still waiting for the fire and the stillness, and permission to simply stop.